El Yeshuati Eftach Lelo Echad Ki Yodi V'Zimrat Yadonai Vayehi Lishua Ushatet.
Hello, this is Jake Rosen dialing in from St. Louis, Missouri, and welcome to AfterGlow, Jeannie.
It's Jeanne Rosen dialing in again from West Palm Beach, Florida. Yep.
Wow.
Still in Florida.
Still in Florida.
Yeah. I haven't seen Jake in person for almost 3 weeks.
Yes, we have suffered our 40th anniversary apart. But we got a big gift on our 40th anniversary, right?
Yeah, we got a baby girl. Yeah.
Born on that day.
Yeah.
On that day, our work is done. We'll all sing together when it comes. But
Yeah.
since it's not
So here we are.
Yeah.
So we will be reunited again by next week, by next Afterglow.
Wait a second. I thought you were coming on Monday.
Well, I know. I'll be home. Yeah, I'm coming back Monday.
Because I'm missing you.
Yeah, and they're missing me at work too.
Are you going to be at work on Monday?
No, on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll remind me about how and when to get you from the airport on Monday.
Yeah, not too bad. Nothing killer.
Last night, our nephew Benjamin picked me up.
Speak louder.
Okay, our nephew Benjamin picked me up last Monday, yesterday, and it was like, red eye. It was late.
You were late. Jake just came in from California so that he could visit our firstborn granddaughter, who was born March 15th of this year. So her name is Noah. How was Noah?
Noah, I was holding her, and she's much bigger than Rosalie. She's like, we went to the last birthing center appointment together, and she passed all the tests, and we were all very encouraging to Heather and Josiah, and we were just very thankful that everything's going well with them. And I was just this was my first time meeting her. I'm shocked that you've held yourself back, but it's like we're playing double duty. We call it divide and conquer, right?
Yeah, it's not easy, but I do feel very close to this one because not only was I there for her birth, but just getting to spend every day with her and watch her change a little bit every day, and being able to hold her and feed her and comfort her too. Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to get that opportunity with Noah. So we'll have to make up for it in other ways.
You talking about like you'll pretend it's Noah and you'll have a water baby, something like that?
No, like when I do see her, we'll just have to play at whatever level she's at. Play hard.
Yeah.
Spoil her.
Well, we'll come up with something. Thank God for the modern umbilical cords that we have from Apple and various kinds of. I heard that
Zoom.
Our friend Elon has just come out with a new phone, or about to.
Oh, really?
Taking over the world.
Yeah, he is. Can you turn it up, Jake? You're not that loud. I don't know. I feel like I'm speaking plenty loud, but I can't hear myself.
Okay, well, that's just my speaker.
That's better.
But
I can hear you better.
You can hear yourself. You can hear me too? Better?
I could hear you a little better.
I don't know. Let's see. Edit. No, that doesn't do anything. So I don't know.
Okay.
Well, but I can hear you, and you're going to be. You see, what's going to happen, people, is Jeannie is going to be doing most of the show because I'll be playing hooky, working on a sermon for tomorrow morning, and I don't have it done yet. And So Jeannie's been working on some stuff, and I'm gonna tell you guys what's on her heart. And we're gonna start with me. I'm gonna do Havdalah, basically turn it over to Jeannie, and you guys can figure out, how to, when our kids were little, there was Pinky in the Brain, and they were always plotting on how to what, Jeannie?
Take over the world.
That's
Take
right.
over the world. Yeah.
The brain, yeah. So you guys could figure all that out.
Yeah. Okay.
So, is there any other things that before we go into the Havdalah? Havdalah means separation. So we've got a candle, and Jeannie's got a set too over where she is. Oops.
Yeah.
Two candles, matching candles.
We gave Mark and Eliza their own Havdalah set, so
It's beautiful.
this is the first time that it'll be used.
Zzz, can you shave with it? Zzz.
Okay. What? But that's not what we start with.
No, we start with a cup of wine. So we're going to put the candle down, and I'm going to start with the wine. Then we're going to do the spices, and the last thing is the candle. So Havdalah means separation. We're separating. We're celebrating Shabbat, the end of Shabbat, by saying these brachas, these blessings, and we're kind of going back into the regular week reluctantly. But maybe it'll help me to get back to work, because we're supposed to work on
hopefully
Shabbat. You did a great.
We'll release you for work, for the mundane.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
So-
we'll pray for you.
Over the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Are you being
And
like?
the spice decanter they have
Oh.
got this little flag on the top. Everything is octagonal on this set.
How gorgeous is that?
Fancy.
We were very nice to them. Got them their own Havdalah set. And it looks like they've been using it too, because you've got the candles all kind of melty. I noticed. What you showed me?
No.
It's not melty? Okay. So, what does yours smell like? You got some smellers?
Same thing. It's this cloves. It's mostly cloves. It smells really good. It came with the little kit we gave them. So you got a little flag too. I wonder what the idea of the flag is. It's got a Jewish star on it.
Ours has just a flourish and a flower.
Yeah.
It's about to drink this one.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Over the spices, let's say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Borei.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe,
Creator of
all kinds of spices. And these heighten our senses and help us to appreciate the peace, the sights, the smells of Shabbat, and carry them with us the rest of the week. That's the idea. It may sound a little dreamy, idealistic, but that it is. We want to take some of the peace and comforts from this day, from Shabbat. Okay. I'm going to light a candle. Jake's going to light the big flame. All right.
I heard something fall down.
No?
Kept
Oh,
it
really?
fall down. It is, yeah.
You?
I heard something fall down. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Probably in
Okay.
the other room, I'm sure.
All right.
Got a nice fire going here.
Yeah.
Warm.
Be sure to blow it out. Okay.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei ha'esh. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, creator of the lights.
The fire. And we'll say the blessing over the
You
Havdalah.
say it. I don't have it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol, ben or l'choshech. Choshech is darkness. Ben Yisrael la'amim, ben yom hashvi'i, l'sheshet yimei ha'maaseh baruch atah Adonai, hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, who separates between the holy and the mundane, between the light and the dark, between Israel and the other nations, between the seventh day and the 6 days of the week. Blessed are you, God, who separates between the holy and the mundane. And it's over here. I put it out. Put it out. Okay. So you guys are in very good hands because she is the producer's producer. So with that,
Blessings on your studies.
Shavua Tov, Jenny.
Thank you, honey. See you about the top of the hour.
Okay. Have fun.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. So here you are. We're together. I don't know that I've done this alone, but I'm happy to be here. Listen, I have on the right side of my screen, it says comments. So if you are hearing this and you can leave comments, please go ahead, interact with me, and we're going to be doing a little study in Jeremiah. So if you have any comments or observations, please, write them down and we'll try to interact. Just a couple of business matters. So like we were talking before with Jake, he was in California, but he's home now. I've been in Florida. I'll be home shortly, back to regular life. It's been 3 weeks of down here with my daughter and her husband and their firstborn. And I got to be there, for the whole thing. And it was amazing. It gives me a great new appreciation for how complex life is and how hard it is to get here and not to be taken for granted. And mommies and the jobs they do getting us here. So thank you to the moms. Jake is preaching tomorrow at Clayton Community Church, 10:45. You can zoom in if you go to our website, claytoncommunitychurch.com, and scroll in and click on the banner. You'll be zoomed in to the church service that starts at 10:45. He is working through a series on John. It's the upper room discourse. It's the long period. It's the long instructions, the long sermon that he gave to his inner circle. Jesus did before the cross. So we're going to go in depth into that material. Also, so we'll be, by next Saturday, we'll be back to a little more normality with AfterGlow and bringing you some of our great interviews. I've got some people in the hopper to get on the calendar. So if you'll just hang in with us, that would be great. So here we are almost in May. And we just, of course, went through the big, Passover, Easter holiday, and Yom HaShoah was this week, April 27th and 28th. So that is the day of Holocaust remembrance. And in the past, we've done some pretty elaborate observations of that. And they were really in St. Louis, and it was really quite special. And Jake's parents went through the Holocaust, so it has special meaning for us to observe it, and it's important to observe so that the memory of the atrocity stays alive for those who are living and who are young and growing up and don't know the history that it needs to be remembered and taught. So that was this late this month. But in May, we've got Israeli Independence Day, which is Yom Ha'atzmaut, Day of Independence. So that is May 4th and 5th. Jake and I had the privilege of being in Israel only once. It was a long time ago, 1995 maybe. And we arrived right on Independence Day, and there were Israeli flags out of everyone's window, and everybody was very excited. So that's coming up. It's also in May is the National Day of Prayer, which is a national holiday. It is in my store-bought secular calendar, National Day of Prayer, first Thursday in May. Jake was the chaplain for the organization for several years, and now he's like the emeritus or something. He doesn't get to go as often, but we do actually, I shouldn't say that. He attends the one in Rock Hill. You just check your local city hall to see if Webster, Kirkwood, or the city of St. Louis has one, and find out where they're meeting at noon on Thursday, May 5th. That's the date this year. Of course, it's Mother's Day on Sunday the 8th, so that's coming up. And remember to appreciate your mama. So while I've been here, I set out a goal to read Jeremiah. It's actually a pretty long book. It's got 52 chapters, and I'm only to chapter 31. And Jeremiah is writing during the tumultuous period in Israeli history. He's warning God. God told him not to marry because the people are going into captivity, into the Babylonian captivity, and they will not. A lot of them will die by sword or famine, and others will be carried off into captivity. And to go, Jeremiah told them. God told Jeremiah to tell the people, go, don't resist, and have families support the city of Babylon that you'll be living in, and it will go well with you. But judgment had finally come to the city and of Jerusalem, and it wasn't gonna go well. And in fact, there was a famine, there was a siege. It took a few years, and the kings were captured and tortured and murdered, and others languished in jail. But I am only in chapter 31, and what I've gotten through is mostly the warning and the teaching. So there's this sort of rhythm to it. It's you're going to be judged, but I'm going to bring you back. I had to judge you. I had to punish your wickedness, your idolatry. Some of the kings had fallen into Baal worship. Some of them went as far as sacrificing their children in the fire. Really, really bad stuff. And a lot of them just felt like, well, we're God's chosen people. He's not gonna do anything bad to us. I think they were really gambling with just disobedience, falling away, and perhaps a little too satisfied with the goodness that they've been experiencing. So I thought since we have time together, we would read chapter 31, because there's a very special point it gets to that in the chapter that tells us of a new covenant that God promises. We were given a covenant with God on Mount Sinai, a wonderful covenant, and an agreement between God and his people, and that if they obeyed him and kept his commandments, he would bring them into the promised land and bless them, and they would see their children's children, and all would go well. And of course, we know that even they couldn't even get out of the wilderness for 40 years because they were disobedient. But a new covenant is coming, and it was promised this early on. And it was forward looking, but you'll see the Messiah in this covenant. Now the Jews went into captivity in 586 BC. So this book is written in the 600s. Okay, so it's written over a period of time, and Jeremiah lived a long life, prophesied his whole life pretty much. So let's look at 31. I'll read it. We can stop a few times and just listen to how expansive God's love is for his people. That's what's so lovely about this chapter. Is it shows you how much love he has, forgiveness, and he's got a big vision for not only his people, but for the whole world. So chapter 31. At that time, declares the Lord, I will be the God of all the clans of Israel, and they will be my people. This is what the Lord says. The people who survive the sword will find favor in the desert. I will come to give rest to Israel. The Lord appeared to us in the past, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with loving kindness. I will build you up again, and you will be rebuilt, O Virgin Israel. Again, you will take up your tambourines and go out to dance with the joyful. Again, you will plant vineyards on the hills of Samaria. The farmers will plant them and enjoy their fruit. There will be a day when watchmen cry out on the hills of Ephraim, come, let us go up to Zion, to the Lord our God. So this is a time in the future yet, because there's reference to Israel and Samaria, places which would be destroyed, and at this point are destroyed. Because Assyrians and God allowed it, and but here the people are kind of notice he says, "O Virgin Israel." He refers to her as though she's this young, how he refers to her when he first knew her. You see that kind of language in Isaiah a lot. Oh, young daughter of Virgin Israel, and how he loves her, and how he took her in and bandaged her wounds and loved her and nurtured her. So he's sort of unleashing this remembrance of their youth and how they danced and enjoyed the goodness of the vineyards and all these good memories. And to go up to the mountain of Zion is to go up. When you go to Jerusalem, you go up. It's ascending to the mountain of God, to the hill of God. So those are all good things. This is what the Lord says. Sing with joy for Jacob. Shout for the foremost of the nations. Make your praises heard and say, O Lord, save your people, the remnant of Israel. There's always been a remnant of true believers of Israel. We're part of it. See, I will bring them from the land of the north and gather them from the ends of the earth. Among them will be the blind and the lame, expectant mothers and women in labor. A great throng will return. They will come with weeping. They will pray as I bring them back. I will lead them beside streams of water. on a level path where they will not stumble. Because I am Israel's father, and Ephraim is my firstborn. So everyone, to mention the blind and even the mothers, the expectant mothers and women in labor. So this is just the whole gamut of people from all ends of the earth, his people. And he will bring them onto a level path, right? Because when you're traversing, the path, it needs to be level. So you will not stumble. I am Israel's father, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord, O nations. Proclaim it in distant coastlands. So he's talking through the whole world. He who scattered Israel will gather them and will watch over his flock like a shepherd. So he's talking about himself. For the Lord will ransom Jacob and redeem them from the hand of those stronger than they. He will rescue. They will come and shout for joy on the heights of Zion. They will rejoice in the bounty of the Lord, the grain, the new wine, and the oil, the young of the flocks and herds. They will be like a well-watered garden, and they will sorrow no more. So we know that's a distant day when we sorrow no more. The maidens will dance and be glad, young men and old as well. I will turn their mourning into gladness. I will give them comfort and joy instead of sorrow. I will satisfy the priests with abundance, and my people will be filled with my bounty, declares the Lord. Then it shifts. This is what the Lord says, and some of you may know this reference. A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because her children are no more. Now we know that reference is it's referenced in the New Testament when Herod is in search of Yeshua, the baby who was born, and his parents had fled to Egypt. Being warned by the angel that Herod is seeking the child to kill him, right? Remember? After Jesus was born, Herod felt threatened because he'd heard that the king of the Jews had been born. So when the wise men didn't return to let Herod know where they'd found the Christ child, he got paranoid, and he ordered that all children 2 years and under, all firstborn males, 2 years and under, were murdered. And there's a lot of artwork about this particular passage, just the mayhem of children being just snatched from their mother's breast and murdered. So that's what that passage. A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because her children are no more. So Rachel is the mother of, is like the mother of Jewish children, right? Israeli children. This is what the Lord says. Restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded, declares the Lord. They will return from the land of the enemy. So there is hope for your future, declares the Lord. Your children will return to their own land. They will have a future. I have surely heard Ephraim's moaning. You discipline me like an unruly calf, and I have been disciplined. Have you ever been disciplined by the Lord? I have. A lot when I was a teenager, especially. And I knew it. I knew it was God because I've known him since I was 9 years old. And it's just very difficult growing up and having a broken family father wasn't a Christian. He was Jewish agnostic at most. And 6 brothers and sisters. And mom was a pretty new believer, very zealous believer, but not a psychologist by any means, knowing really how to nurture six kids, all very close in age, teenagers in the 70s, no husband. Yeah. So I did a lot of wandering, and I felt disciplined by God. And whenever I get injured, I would interpret it as God, punishing me. But it also, and I don't know that he did, he wasn't punishing me per se, but he certainly used the hardships to humble me and make me stop and slow down and ponder him. So I can say that by about the age of 20, 19, 20, I was on track. I was back on track. And because I'd been raised in the church, right? But we were all first generation believers. So we didn't have that depth of experience and advice and just knowing how to minister to yourself and even proper discipline, that our kids have really benefited from, just the next generation of believers who did a lot of work on counseling and spiritual development, knowing how to. There have been just so many good books that help us, and devotionals that nurture us, and teaching. We are so fortunate in this country to have free sermons all the time. I mean, you just turn on the radio, and fortunately, the radio waves do go out to many countries, but we've just come so far over the course of a generation or two to have strong, deeply rooted churches. There are also problems. People have problems, but we don't have an excuse that there aren't any good churches, because there are many, many good teachers to come under, and we're grateful. We should be grateful for that. They weren't very grateful. The people of Israel weren't very grateful for Jeremiah, and God warned Jeremiah that they're not going to listen to you, but I'm going to put this word in you that you have to say anyway. And God strengthened him. Jeremiah was such a he was so good with words too. I don't know that you would call, he was very poetic, let's say. I don't know that he's a poet so much as Isaiah was, who used this sort of all this poetic structure, but there will be these wonderful passages of wording that's such a beautiful way to phrase things, he some classics, I know I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Stuff like that. Lovely stuff. Like in 17 it talks about the plant in the desert that doesn't perish when the sun comes and broils all the other plants up, but it's well nourished, and he compares that to someone that's close to God. It's lovely. So yeah, so discipline. We there's a verse in Hebrews, and it says endure hardship as discipline, for God disciplines those he loves, and the sons that belong to him. That's a paraphrase, but when you're wondering why you're enduring, why you have hardship, it's not obscure. God knows what you're going through, and he's treating you as a son. And what parent who loves his child doesn't discipline his son? But that child's going to benefit from it in the long run. So don't wither when you endure hardship. When you face hardship, endure it. So let's keep going. You discipline me like an unruly calf, and I have been disciplined. Restore me, and I will return, because you are the Lord my God. After I strayed, I repented. I'm just making sure who's speaking here. God is speaking to Israel. After I strayed, I repented. After I came to understand, I beat my breast. I was ashamed and humiliated because I bore the disgrace of my youth. Yes, we make bad choices in our youth. Is not Ephraim my dear son, the child in whom I delight? Though I often speak against him, I still remember him. Therefore my heart yearns for him. I have great compassion for him, declares the Lord. See, through it's hard to it can be hard to pinpoint exactly who sometimes who God is speaking to, or the time frame. But what we can glean from all this is God's character and his heart. It comes through strongly, and you can see here how he's yearning for his son, the son he created. He has great compassion, and he's going to bring all the trouble and the captivity, all the fact that they've been, Israel at that time got taken out of the land and removed, and that's a great deal of shame, but it's all going to come back. And he continues, set up road signs, put up guideposts, take note of the highway, the road that you take. Return, O virgin Israel, return to your towns. How long will you wander, O unfaithful daughter? The Lord will create a new thing on earth. A woman will surround a man. I looked that up, and it didn't give me too much, but it was that embrace with tender and unfailing love, Judah would someday return to the Lord and love him as her husband without reservation. So that's what that's referring to. Something, the Lord will create a new thing on earth. A woman will surround a man. That means Israel is like a woman and will embrace her husband, her God, who is like a husband to her. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says: when I bring them back from captivity, the people in the land of Judah and in its towns will once again use these words. The Lord bless you, O righteous dwelling, O sacred mountain. People will live together in Judah and all its towns. Farmers and those who move about with their flocks, I will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint. At this I awoke and looked around. My sleep had been pleasant to me. So this was Jeremiah sleeping and being God talking to him. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will plant the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the offspring of men and animals, just as I watched over them to uproot and tear down and to overthrow, destroy, and bring disaster. So I will watch over them to build and to plant. So the reverse is going to happen, declares the Lord. In those days, people will no longer say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. What does that mean? The fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. Well, it's an old proverb. And in it referenced Exodus 20:5-6, which said, you shall not make for yourself an idol. You shall not bow down to it or worship them. For I am the Lord your God. I am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of their fathers to the third and fourth generation, but showing love to 1,000 generations. So even though God would visit the sins of the fathers onto the third and fourth generations of their children, he shows love far outweighing the third and fourth generations. The love continues for thousands of generations. But that is the idea of sour grapes. It's a proverb. It's a way of saying that the sins of the fathers are visited upon their children. And Jeremiah was teaching the people. It's not that there wasn't this sense of, we want to model good parenting, not sinning for the children, and not that it's not true, but there is a sense of responsibility that each person had for the present circumstance that Israel found itself in, that it was about to be taken into captivity because of the sins of that generation. So, but the point of this verse is to say that was once said, but no longer is that going to be the case, because there's going to be a new covenant I'm making with my people. So it continues. Instead of the fathers eat sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge, instead, everyone will die for their own sins. Whoever eats sour grapes, his own teeth will be set on edge. The time, here's the real crux. The time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their forefathers when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. So he's talking about the law of Moses and the Ten Commandments and the first covenant he made with the people of Israel when he took them out of Egypt, and they made promises to each other, and Moses gave them the law, and they bound together in a covenant. But that is the passing covenant. That is the old. This is the covenant I will make to the house of Israel. So we're in Jeremiah 31:33 right now. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel. After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will a man teach his neighbor or a man his brother, saying, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. Now, how is this accomplished? How will we write his law on their hearts and their minds and put the law in their minds? This was accomplished through Yeshua. When the law when he took on the payment for the all-time payment for sin, he created a new covenant that was sealed with his blood instead of the blood of bulls and goats that could only temporarily forgive sin, for a year, and then they had to redo it. So this passage is found in Hebrews, which is all about the passing of the old school, the old covenant, how the blood of bulls and goats no longer cleanse from sin, but it's only through the payment through Jesus's payment. So Hebrews 8 through 12 describes this same, it quotes this Jeremiah passage, and it also notes that in the notes, this is a superior covenant. The new covenant is a superior one to the old. God's law becomes an inner principle. No longer is this external thing that you have to somehow remember and depend on yourself to keep the law. No, it becomes in one's heart. It is a genius way of accomplishing a very personal relationship with God, because he comes to reside in you personally. So then each one becomes personally responsible for their decision about what they're going to do about their sin. It's between you and God. So he's given us the capacity now to make a choice for him of his new covenant. Also, it enables his people, us, to delight in doing God's will, having this law written on our hearts. And we now have intimate fellowship with God all the time. It's not an external, it's not something we just go to temple to do, to listen to a sermon or to make a sacrifice, which we can't do anyway because there's no temple sacrifices anymore. We don't have a temple. Jesus became the one eternal sacrifice for all time. And this is his new covenant in his blood. So we no longer have to deal with the sinful ignorance of God. We have the books have been open wide for us. We can have full knowledge of God because we've got his word. It's available to all of us, as is his salvation. Jesus came for everyone, not just the Jewish people. He's supposed to be a light to the nations. Yeah. So, forgiveness of sins is a everlasting reality. It's a reality. It really is truly a gift, this new covenant. So let's see what else Jeremiah has to say. We're getting near the end. So no longer will a man teach his neighbor or a man his brother, saying, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the greatest of them, from the least of them to the greatest. It's everyone. It's anyone. Man, woman, child, anyone who can understand. And we've all been given, most of us, the majority of us have been given a conscience and are able to think, cognate. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. This is what the Lord says. He who appoints the sun to shine by day, who decrees the moon and stars to shine by night, who stirs up the sea so that its waves roar, the Lord Almighty is his name. Only if these decrees vanish from my sight, declares the Lord. And he's talking about the phenomenon, the oceans, the stars, the moon, and the sun. Only if these decrees vanish from my sight will the descendants of Israel ever cease. So the moon and the stars and the sea and all of that would have to cease to be before the people of Israel cease to be. Will the descendants of Israel ever cease to be a nation before me? A nation. That means Israel. Will, if not, will be and will always be a nation before him. And we know Israel is a nation. She came back together in 1948. She was dispersed until then. Hi, honey.
Hi, Jeanne.
Did you get anything done?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm almost done with Jeremiah. How are we doing?
I was hearing some of you. That's good stuff. Sounds like God's making sure the people of Israel aren't destroyed, even though there's all kinds of people trying to destroy Israel all the time, all through history.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about how the sun and the moon and the stars and the ocean would have to cease to be before the nation of Israel would ever cease to be.
Wow.
And those are pretty powerful forces. So, and the nation is intact again after a long diaspora.
And we're having grandbabies.
What?
We're having grandbabies.
Yeah, we're building the nation.
Baby.
We're helping
That's
expand the nation. Okay, this is what the Lord says. Only if the heavens above can be measured and the foundations of the earth below be searched out, will I reject all the descendants of Israel because of all they have done.
Mm-hmm.
He declares this type of stuff a lot. I mean, he has to judge, and he's going to send them into captivity, and they're going to face a lot of horrible things, right?
Yeah, people got thrown into fire, like Daniel's friends, and then Daniel gets thrown into a lion's den. Yeah.
Yeah. And miraculously, they made it through, but he always promises that he's going to bring them through, and the nation. And I mean, the first part of this chapter was all about just bringing them back to the land and dancing, and they're going to enjoy the vineyards, and the cities are going to be filled again, and he's going to bring them from the north and the coastlands, and it's all going to be consummated someday, and we know he promised to bring them back from the Babylonian captivity too. So there's that kind of language as well. I'm going to bring them back from captivity. So it's kind of, I said in the beginning, we're looking kind of at a big picture when someday all these, all it's going to be forever. And all the remnant, all the believers will be, brought together.
So reading through Jeremiah in a concentrated way from chapter 1 all the way through now 31.
Speak louder.
So reading through Jeremiah in a concentrated way out of your regular surroundings, How is it? Have you noticed things that you haven't noticed before? Or,
Yeah, Jake, I was saying he's not a poet per se. I don't know if he's using chiastic forms of poetry, but he really is very eloquent. He will make these beautiful phrases, very memorable, kind of, beautiful, beautiful phraseology. So there's that. I've noticed, this is a lot of buildup to what's coming. It's a lot of warning. And
he's warning the people
yeah,
that God's had enough, and that they need to get ready to. Babylon's coming. It's like, forget it. And he got into a lot of trouble for that, because who wants to hear that your nation's going to get destroyed?
They did, and God kept saying directly to the people, to the prophets who were prophesying wrongly. He said, don't listen to them. If they're telling you, oh, God would never do that, don't listen to them. There's this very direct message, but I think there was a lot of pride there, and it hadn't hit the fan yet. So, there's a lot of power when there's a lot to lose. That's what it seems like. It's like we're not listening to you. You're, and then after the jail, after they beat him and jailed him a couple of chapters ago, then I guess it's Zedekiah is the king. He brought him back in and said, okay, tell us what God says. It's like, then he wanted to hear it. And I don't think, he just told them they're in trouble. They're wrong. Yeah. So I realized.
Go ahead. I was just
to me, it's, I always want to read to get to the end of the story and see what's going to happen. And because I think the next half, we're going to see the attack come. We're going to get details on it. We're not there yet, but it's not as complicated as some stories are, because there are so many names and kings and so forth. But Josiah's sons, Jehoiachin and Jehoiakim, I have to map it out to keep track of all these guys.
Okay, well, we're going to have to say goodbye, because
okay. Thank you. Okay? Bye, everybody.
I'm at the edge of my seat. Very good.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Love you.
You too. Bye.
Hine el Yeshuati, Eftach lelo echad, ki yodim v'zimrat yad Adonai, vayehi li Yeshua b'shatet.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.